Welcome to the More Than Fitness podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Minisode 109. I have a wonderful minisode for you guys today, a topic that might ruffle a few people's feathers, crush their dreams, and realize that they have been working harder and not necessarily smarter. Today I want to talk about why you should stop exercising for fat loss. Because I think, especially nowadays, people have the craze of Peloton or Orange Theory or Soul Cycle, or in the past, things like Zumba, right? All of these cardio classes and methods talk about how they are so great for losing fat, for burning calories, et cetera, et cetera. And while these classes and things, these methods of exercise do have plenty of benefits, I think that fat loss actually isn't one of them. Now, just because you can lose body fat from those things, just because you can burn fat on a Peloton or Orange Theory, et cetera, it doesn't mean that it's the best tool you should be using. You can walk to work, but why walk whenever you could drive, right? And so I think in the examples that I go over today, you're going to maybe realize that cardio isn't the most, or cardio or just exercise in general, just isn't the most effective tool you should be using for your fat loss goals. Again, all of those things, no knock on them for the amazing things they have done for the fitness industry, as far as Peloton or Orange Theory. All of these things have gotten people off their asses in the first place, right? It's been something that people can look forward to and gets them to keep coming back in the gym. So if it's an adherence thing and the Peloton bike is what's keeping you coming back day in and day out to get your exercise in, well, then that's great. That's amazing. But what I think that you should also know is that you can ride the Peloton and get the benefits there. But if you just think that you can out-train a bad diet or you can out-cycle a bad diet, well, then this minisode might hurt your feelings a little bit. So that brings me to the crux of this whole minisode and why exercise, cardio or lifting is wildly inefficient for fat loss. And I'll give you some examples why. So let's take running, for example, running, jogging, etc. There's a general rule that for every mile you run, you burn about 100 calories. So if you run 3 miles, then you burn about 300 calories. And then with lifting, it's actually even worse on the calorie burning spectrum. Research has shown that you can burn anywhere on average between 70 and 300 calories per lifting session. And if you immediately think, oh, I'm definitely the group of people that burns 300 calories or more per lifting session, I would say you're probably not. These people worked out very, very intensely to burn those 300 calories. And whenever you think about it, just real quick as a tangent, it makes sense because the majority of time that you're lifting weights in the gym, you're mostly resting. The ratio of lifting to resting, you might be actually lifting the weight during a set for maybe 20 seconds or so, 30 seconds, 45 seconds if it's a really hard set or something, or really high reps. So it's like the majority of the other time is just spent sitting or resting, or maybe you're doing something else in between sets. But that's another issue that we could talk about later. But lifting 70 to 300 calories per session. And so while I want you to keep those examples in mind, and then I want you to compare those examples of running 3 miles to burn 300 calories, or maybe burning 70 to 300 calories for a lifting session. And I want you to compare that to simply eating less. So focusing on your diet for fat loss. And I think I can demonstrate this to you by asking you this, like, which sounds easier and a better use of your time if you want to burn 300 calories every single day? Would you try and run 3 miles every single day and spend 30 minutes or more? Would you try and lift intensely every single day to try and burn 70 to 300 calories per day? Or would you simply just skip dessert, right? So you can take 30 minutes to try and run 3 miles, or you can just take 30 seconds to make the decision to not grab that donut after dinner is over, right? So that's why exercise is very inefficient for fat loss. And I think whenever you hear those comparisons, it just kind of makes sense. Like if calorie burning is the goal, or simply being in a calorie deficit, which is what fat loss requires, it's like the easiest tool to reach that is not to try and run 3 miles every single day. It's to simply just not eat those additional 300 calories, because it's just a much better use of your time. Now, of course, you can do both. You can do cardio and you can also eat less. And maybe you're at a point in your diet where you've cut calories for so long, and maybe instead of eating less, now you want to add in some cardio as a tool to further that calorie deficit. I think that's totally fine. I do that with my clients and I ask them sometimes, I'm just like, would you prefer to eat about 100 calories less, or do you want to add in a little bit of cardio each week? And typically for some people, especially if they're not doing any cardio at all, it's like they're on board with that, because the next question you may ask is like, okay, if I shouldn't exercise for fat loss, why should I exercise at all? And I think that there's the two main reasons. First is muscle gain and muscle retention, right? So whenever you're in a calorie deficit, you're already more prone to losing muscle mass during that calorie deficit. And I think the comparison that people often see with this, whenever people simply just do cardio for fat loss and they don't also lift weights, is they kind of have that skinny fat look, or maybe they're kind of a little bit more flabby, right? They don't have that tone to their skin or to their muscle, right? They don't have that shape and the build, and that's typically what happens. And it's why you can absolutely lose body fat by just focusing on diet and cardio, and that's what you should do. But you need to also make sure that you look at the other side of the equation, and this is where exercise comes in, to make sure you're also gaining muscle mass, because that's the kind of ultimate body composition duo that we're looking for. We want to take care of our fat loss with the diet, and then we want to take care of our muscle gain and muscle retention with lifting weights. So that's the first reason you should exercise. And then the second reason is the more obvious one. This is just the general health reasons. So cardiovascular benefits, you have blood pressure benefits, you have bone density benefits, just general well-being, sleep, et cetera, right? So those are the two main reasons that you should also exercise. But whenever fat loss is your main goal, exercise isn't the best tool to do that. Instead, focus on cleaning up your diet. This is why they say you can't outtrain a bad diet. All right, and that is it for Minisode number 109, Stop Exercising for Fat Loss. Okay, and that is it. Thank you guys, as always, for listening and for watching. See ya.